So the teams are out and it's the final roll of the dice in this last round of the Rugby Championship 2022. And I thought you were going to score.
Ask a better question, you get a better answer.
Hi guys, welcome back. So we've had a thrilling Rugby Championship. I'm saying it's technically between two sides here, but Australia could win it with a bonus point win, and if South Africa and New Zealand lose with nothing, no bonus point, then it is possible for Australia. But really I'm saying it's between South Africa and New Zealand, both on 14 points. New Zealand fairly comfortably ahead on points difference, so that could be important. So let's get into these teams. We've got New Zealand at home to Australia. Let's have a look at the New Zealand squad. Now, first up, I think probably the most controversial call in the front row. De Groot, Lomax, they're the first choice at the moment. Those youngsters who've done so well in the propping department. But instead of Takiyahu there, who's been playing so well in the whole Rugby Championship, instead Foster's gone for Taylor. Now, unless Takiyahu's carrying an injury, which they haven't said he is, then I think that's a bad call for trying to win the Rugby Championship. For me, this strikes as a call to try and get Taylor back in form, confident, more of a looking forward sort of selection rather than a here and now. And you know my opinions on this. In big tournaments like the Rugby Championship, I think winning is more important. So I would have played Takiyahu. Let me know if you would have done that as well. In the second row, no surprise, Retallick and Whitelock, they're the pairing again. Just a crazy number of caps between them, well over 200. Retallick looking close to his old self last week, which is such a boost. So I expect him to be even better. So that's great. Sure, they're a bit older, but they're still performing well. Still their best second row pairing. They've got the young Vai on the bench, who I think needs a bit more exposure. So I think there's probably a bit more evidence to say he should start instead of Taylor actually, but I need to let that one go. Back row, a few changes, some positives, some maybe making them slightly weaker. Ardie Surveyor is back at 8, perfect timing for this finale for the Rugby Championship. I expect him to be absolutely bouncing. He wasn't injured. He just had to go away for personal reasons. At 6, a bit of a loss. Barrett and Frizzell both out. They're big physical units. The way I think they like to play now. Akira Ioane has had some really good games for the All Blacks. Some average games as well. But with those two guys unavailable, just a massive opportunity for him. But I do think they might be slightly more vulnerable without Barrett and Frizzell. Particularly on the bench, Barrett's very useful as well. At 7, no Kane. So Papali'i gets his chance. Now, we've been talking about Papali'i for ages. Could he be, the next Kane or replace Kane even before the World Cup? Well, he hasn't really broken through yet, and this could be a genuine chance to start to do that anyway. So big games for Akira Ioane and Papali'i. 9 and 10, unsurprising. We've got Smith and Mo'unga. And it looks like Mo'unga has re-secured, if you like, that first choice fly half spot. It was flopping between Beauden Barrett and Mo'unga for a while. It looks like Mo'unga's got it back. Can he keep it all the way to the World Cup? I'd say it's probably likely. Caleb Clark, another one who's really used this Rugby Championship well to kind of cement his place at the moment as the premier power attacking threat in the All Blacks backline. Then at 12, we've got another, maybe not controversial selection, but one that's been forced upon them. Geordie Barrett plays 12. Tapia, we know he had that sickening season-ending knee injury, which was horrible to see. Havili's got a head knock, so he's out for a little bit. But Geordie Barrett gets the chance to play 12, and I think he likes playing 12. He's played there for Hurricanes. Foster's kind of said he doesn't really like him playing 12, so he's kind of had to, backtrack a little bit there, but needs must. So he is selected, although he's got loads of potential. He's got that frame to take the ball up hard. He's got an offloading game, got a passing game. We know he's got a big kicking game, so on paper he could be great, but what a big chance to see if he is an option. What a versatile player. A guy that can play in the back 3, and at 12 he can play at 10 as well. Just what a great all-round player. So I hope he goes well for his sake, but certainly a little bit of a risk there in the back row, at hooker, and now at 12. So I think that does leave them a little vulnerable, although it could go great. Another call they've had to make is leaving Will Jordan on the wing rather than putting him to his favourite position as 15, although with injuries they had to rejig, and it kind of makes more logical sense to bring Beauden Barrett in at 15. So Jordan misses out again, but they may well rotate a bit anyway when Beauden Barrett especially steps up to be a first receiver. Then Takiaho does make the bench, so that he's going to come on with a bit of a point to prove, to say, look, you shouldn't have dropped me. Tuinga Fassi, Laulala, we see them, the experienced guys there, propping subs. Vai, I've mentioned. So Tutu, who's very explosive off the base, as quick off the base of a scrum as any number 8 in the world, so he'll add some pace, as will Christie. We finally get to see Tuasava Shek, which is great. He's exciting, he's got potential. Is the rest of his game up to international standards? Well, we get to have a proper look at least. Well, hopefully we do anyway. Then rounding off the bench, we've got Sevu Reece, who's never let the All Blacks down, a proven try scorer. So plenty of firepower coming off the bench for sure, plenty of pace coming off the bench, but also plenty of disruption in the starting team. Now on to Australia. Backline exactly the same. No one had a real stinker, so that doesn't make much of a surprise. But I guess Foley had that big error at the end. Apart from that, he played well. Anyway, like we said, Fekete, Ikitau, the same centres, the same back three. Foley, Gordon. I was impressed with Gordon. I think he's got a real chance of making a push for 9 because he's that bigger 9, which does give you something extra. We saw that in defence last week. Then we have a bit of a rejig in the back row with Leota injured, which isn't great. So what they've done is they've recalled Harry Wilson, the big number 8 there, to play 8. They've moved their bulldozer of ball carrier Valentini to 6, with Samu staying 7. So this is a huge back row, powerful back row. I might even give it the edge over the New Zealand back row with the disruption they have. They could have played McWright at 7, maybe moved Samu to 6 and played Valentini at 8, but they've gone for the size option there, so let's see how that goes. An injury to Phillip, which is a shame in the second row, so Neville is in, so they really are getting a bit light in that second row with suspensions and injuries. Holloway has to then stay the second row, the back row playing there. Front row I think did pretty well last week, and Alatoa especially looking really good. Slipper there, the captain Parecki, look really good at line out especially. They may fancy themselves against Cody Taylor potentially with Takiaho taken out. Then the bench, as you see there, Fraser McWright will probably come on at 7 and they'll have to rejig. Frost covering second row. White now displaces first choice for a little bit. He may well get back in there. Hodge covering 10 essentially. Pattaya covering back 3, maybe centres as well. Let me know how you think that stacks up. I think New Zealand at home makes them the favourites, although they have had some disruption in their team for sure. Can Australia pull one more out of the bag? I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. If you had to push me, I'd say New Zealand, but maybe not with a bonus point, which then opens the door for South Africa. At the time of recording, I didn't have the Argentinian team, but this is the South African team, and a few interesting changes enforced. At 10, that's the big change there. Fran Steyn is in. So with Pollard out, Yanti's out with stuff, shall we say. Now Willems are out with concussion. That is a problem. So they're moving Steyn to 10. They're in a bit of a tight spot. Steyn's a good player. He's experienced. I'm sure he'll do fine. Is he as quick, as creative as Willemse? Maybe not, especially with South Africa chasing bonus points potentially. But really it's the injury changes they might have to make that I think is a bit of a problem. They've gone 6-2 split, and I think this game could really do with a 5-3. If Fran Steyn goes down, I imagine they move Willie Leroux to 10. But then they can bring on their replacement. Arenza is back in there, can come into the back 3. But then if they have an injury in the centres, they'd have to move out their starting 10. Steyn to 12, I imagine. If they had an injury to 10 and a centre, I think they'd be in big trouble. You'd probably been calling on Quagga Smith to the rescue. So I just see it as maybe unnecessarily risky. Am I panicking unnecessarily? Let me know. Anyway, centre's the same as last game. Delandy's really stepped up since a quiet start to the Rugby Championship. Jesse Creel, who isn't quite I think we found out last game. Moody I really like, still playing well, the youngster there. Mapimpi, of course. Hendrickser seems to have just edged the battle over de Klerk, but that's going to continue for sure. Visa, who I suggested right at the beginning was their number 1, number 8, and has emerged so. But Vermeulen is back on the bench to try and prove that he's got what it takes to take his shirt back. Really positive news at blindside. Pieter-Steph du Toit is back in. They say he's looking great in training. Bit harsh against Mostert, but Pieter-Steph du Toit is, the out-and-out talent, and Mostert on the bench is absolutely fantastic. Khaleesi at open side. Second rows who have been going really well, Diaga and Etzebeth. Last game, I think Etzebeth was a bit too eager occasionally. That can be one of his flaws, but he's such a talented player. If he gets it right, so destructive. Front row looking great, I think, looking the best for a while. They're starting their best front row of Marks at hooker, Kitsoff and Malherbe. Love that. And on the bench, they've got Mbanambi back. Possibly their first choice, definitely at least their second choice. Hooker, great to have him back. Oxenchae and Vincent Koch on the bench. So I think it's a slightly better bomb squad there. I really like it. That could be a big, tough one for Argentina to deal with. Like I mentioned, Mostert's a great sub. Vermeulen can come on at 8 because you've got Quagga Smith as well. Faf de Klerk to 9. And Renza covering the back 3. I just got a feeling we might see Quagga Smith in the backs at some point in this game, which could be interesting, but they may well get away with it. Anyway, is that team going to be good enough to get it done against Argentina? I would say yes, it can absolutely win. It's going to have to win, I think, with a bonus point. Well, it will have to win, I think, with a bonus point. Are they going to get enough if New Zealand win with a bonus point as well? So the Springboks are going to have to score a lot of points, which they're capable of doing, but they may have to open out a bit more than they have done. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think of all those teams, and I'll catch you next time.